Now to Germany's Munich airport, which has resumed flights after drone sightings forced air traffic control to suspend operations on Thursday evening. More than 30 flights were cancelled or diverted, leaving thousands of passengers stranded. German authorities have begun an investigation to identify the drone's origin. It's the latest in a string of similar incidents across Europe. Airports in Denmark, Norway and Poland recently suspended flights because of unidentified drones. European authorities have expressed concerns that Russia could be behind the incidents, but the Kremlin denies involvement. In fact, Russian President Vladimir Putin seems to be enjoying European conversations about these drone incursions. Speaking at an event held by a Russian think tank in Sochi, he made fun of Western claims of Russian involvement.
Vladimir, why are you flying so many drones to Denmark?
I will stop.
Please do.
I'm not going to do it anymore. I won't send drones to France, Denmark or Copenhagen. Maybe Lisbon. But really, where else could they go? You know, some people have always been fascinated by UFOs, and that fascination still exists. But Europe has its share of oddballs, just like we do here. Especially the younger ones. They'll be launching drones every day.
Well, despite President Putin's jokes, Danish intelligence still hasn't confirmed that Russia is behind this week-long wave of drone sightings over their territory. Our correspondent, Teri Schultz in Brussels, told me more about what Danish officials are saying.
When I heard that the Danish Defense Ministry called a press conference suddenly for this morning, I thought they might be announcing some new evidence on who might be responsible for that week of drone incursions that happened in Denmark, but that's not what they wanted to talk about. In fact, the head of the Defense Intelligence Services came out with their first ever threat assessment of Russia's overall hybrid war against Europe, specifically against Denmark. And in that assessment, they didn't give direct evidence for the drones, but they did talk about other incidents, including the fact that there was a Shadow Fleet tanker anchored off the Danish coast at the beginning of that week of drone flights. They also said that sometimes Russian warships would set themselves on collision courses with Danish naval vessels in the Danish Straits, and even mentioned another time that a warship had seemingly targeted Danish helicopters in the sky. So plenty of cases they have, examples of what they say is Russia's hybrid war. They now put the possibility of a sabotage attack on Danish armed forces, Phil, at a level of high. They also said the probability of a military provocation against other NATO countries is also high.
OK, so meanwhile, Munich airport here in Germany was closed overnight because of drone sightings. We also have Belgian officials saying there have been more sightings over military bases there. What more can you tell us?
That's right, and we don't have a lot more information on that, similar to Munich. Belgium says that there were 15 drones sighted over a military base, but Belgian officials themselves seem a bit mystified as to why that military base may have been chosen, because, of course, Belgium does store nuclear weapons here, and it wasn't that base. So we don't know a lot more. They were hovering in Belgian airspace and then actually went into German airspace. OK, thanks for that, Teri. DW's Teri Schultz. Let's get more on this from Emil Archambault from the Centre for Security and Defence at the German Council on Foreign Relations think tank. Welcome to DW.
Thank you.
Let's start with who is likely to be behind this rash of drone incursions. Is it Russia?
It's a very good question, and there's a lot we don't know. So we have, in the past few weeks, we have seen incursions, for instance, in Poland and Romania. There were drones that were very evidently from Russia. There were Russian models, and some of them were shot down by NATO forces. So those were able to be identified easily. In the more recent incursions we have seen in Denmark, more recently in France, Belgium, and now in Germany, we don't have much to go on. We don't have the drones, we don't have the operators, so there's a lot we don't know. The timing might make it seem like there is a link there, but it could also be a coincidence. We just don't know until the authorities tell us they have information.
If it is Russia, what would they be hoping to get out of these drone incursions?
One possibility when foreign powers would use drones in these situations might be to get information. They can do, for instance, electronic interception. They might be able to get images of things that we would prefer not to see. Particularly, for instance, there have been reports of sightings around military bases. The other part, however, is that it shows how much critical infrastructure there is in a developed country, in a very industrialized country like Germany, and how much of that could be potentially vulnerable. It creates a certain fear, a certain concern, and that can be something that could be used by adversaries as well. But again,
I don't know. I listen to that and I think, well, you could get all that information from Google Earth. There must be some more malign intent behind this than just information gathering.
Well, we can get some information from Google Earth, for instance. Not everything. Electronic signals, for instance, it helps to be close to the source where they're from. But if it is a foreign actor, then it can also be a part of an information operation to create a certain sense of concern, a certain sense of panic. That could be, again, in the conditional, the reason.
And what does it tell us about the state of Europe's air defences that we don't know where these drones originated?
Well, one thing that it shows is that we do need more systems, more capabilities to be able to combat these incursions. That includes longer-range detection systems. That includes systems to be able to take down drones, for instance, or at least to trace them, which is not an easy thing to do. I want to get that clear, that it's not something that can be done just with any kind of old system. It is something that requires advanced capabilities. But it also shows that there is a lot of different points that have to be defended. We can think about any city, water systems, electricity systems, defense systems. There's a lot of potential points that could be targeted, and it is very hard to defend all of them. Yes.
So European countries are talking about this so-called drone wall. Just explain what that is and whether you think it's a good idea.
Right, sure. So the drone wall, the name is a bit of a misnomer. It is not, in fact, a wall. It's a layered system of defenses that includes captors to be able to detect drones and then different systems to be able to shoot them down. Now, the idea of this drone wall would be that it would be placed at the eastern flank of NATO. So that can help against incursions from Russia, as we saw in Poland or Romania. It would not, however, help with what, for instance, happened in Munich last night. So we need to think beyond a wall to think about a whole of society approach, a whole country defense system.
I guess the benefit of these drones is that they're cheap. That's a few hundred or a few thousand euros set against the millions it costs to scramble NATO fighter jets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of the big challenges now, technically, and in terms of what is available to the police, to the armed forces, is to lower that cost of interception so that we don't want to use Patriot missiles that are very expensive. We don't want to use Eurofighter F-35 jets to counter drones that are very cheap. We need to find cheaper systems, and that might be interceptor drones in some context. That's harder to do in civilian areas because we don't want a drone to fall out of the sky. It might include electronic countermeasures, jamming systems, for instance, but also just in detection, being able to detect these drones and track them earlier and also later to be able to track them for a longer period of time would tell us a lot about what happens, what is happening, and who might be behind it. And it could be, in some cases, foreign actors. It could also just be a photographer who is over-enthusiastic or a hobbyist, yes.
Okay. Thanks for talking us through that so clearly. Emil Archambault from the German Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.